You're listening to Just a Dude podcast with your host, Nathan. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Let's roll. Hey folks, welcome back to Just a Dude in the News on Just a Dude podcast. I'm your host, Nathan, coming to you with that laid-back vibe but keeping it real on the big stories shaking up the country this week. We're talking September 5th through the 12th of 2025, and man, it's been a whirlwind. From tough calls on immigration to heartbreaking losses and economic bumps in the road, the U.S. is buzzing. I'll break down the top 10 stories, give you facts straight up, and keep it neutral with a nod to common sense solutions that put America first. Grab a coffee, settle in, and let's dive right into it. All right, folks, kicking things off with a big one on immigration enforcement. On September 5th, federal agents from ICE swooped into a Hyundai electric vehicle battery plant in Elabel, Georgia, and arrested around 475 workers, many of them from South Korea. This was billed as the largest single-site operation in the history of the Department of Homeland Security, targeting folks accused of working illegally in the U.S. The plant, which is ramping up production for EVs, suddenly ground to a halt as buses loaded up the detainees and shipped them out, leaving families and communities in shock. The backstory here is that Hyundai had brought in these workers on what they claimed were temporary visas to help build the factory, but critics say it was a way to skirt American labor laws and keep costs down. President Trump praised the raid as a win for putting American jobs first, saying it sends a clear message that companies can't just import cheap labor without consequences. On the flip side, South Korean officials are fuming, calling it a diplomatic slap in the face and demanding the workers' swift release. By midweek, over 300 of them were flown back home, touching down in Seoul to cheers but also protests against the U.S. policy. This isn't just about one factory. It's highlighting the broader push under the current administration to crack down on sanctuary policies and illegal immigration, especially in industries like manufacturing, where foreign workers fill gaps. Supporters argue it's protecting U.S. workers from wage suppression, while opponents worry it'll scare off international investment and hurt the economy. As the week wrapped, Hyundai issued a statement vowing to comply, but also hinting at legal challenges, and talks between U.S. and South Korean diplomats really heated up. Folks, immigration is a tough nut to crack, but enforcing the rules fairly seems like the right call to keep things balanced for everyone here at home. We'll keep an eye on how this plays out with trade ties and jobs. Moving on to a bold move from the White House, on September 6th, President Trump signed an executive order officially renaming the Department of Defense to the Department of War, harking back to its original title before World War II. He called it a return to straightforward American strength, saying the old name was too soft for the threats we face today from places like China and cartels south of the border. The changes stirred up plenty of debate. Proponents, including several GOP lawmakers, see it as a signal of resolve, emphasizing that the U.S. needs to protect power without apology in an increasingly dangerous world. Trump tied it to his plans for tougher stances on tariffs and military deployments, like sending warships to combat drug trafficking. Critics, mostly from the left, argue it's inflammatory and could escalate global tension unnecessarily, pointing out that the rename ignores the modern focus on defense over outright war. By the end of the week, the Pentagon had updated its signage and websites, but legal experts are watching for challenges under the Constitution. Military leaders have stayed mostly quiet, focusing on operations, but insiders say it'll take time to shift the culture. This comes amid reports of increased U.S. military aid to allies and preparations for potential conflicts, making it a pivotal moment for national security policy. Whether you love it or not, this rename underscores a push for unapologetic American leadership, which resonates with a lot of folks tired of endless debates. It's a reminder that strength starts at home. Shifting gears to the wallet watch, the Bureau of Labor Statistics dropped the August jobs report on September 5th, and it was not pretty. Non-farm payrolls barely budged with just 22,000 new jobs added, way below expectations, while unemployment ticked up to 4.2%, the highest since 2021. Economists are pointing fingers at everything from high interest rates to global trade jitters as culprits for the slowdown. This comes right after a strong rebound earlier in the year, but now sectors like manufacturing and retail are showing cracks, with layoffs popping up in tech and auto. President Trump blamed it on lingering Biden-era policies and vowed more tariffs to bring jobs back home, while Fed watchers speculate this could push the central bank towards rate cuts sooner to juice things up. Inflation cooled a bit, but everyday costs for groceries and gas are still squeezing families. By week's end, Wall Street was jittery with the Dow dipping and experts forecasting a bumpy fall if consumer spending doesn't pick up. Small businesses hit hardest are calling for tax relief and deregulation to get hiring again. It's a classic case of the economy feeling the pinch from policy shifts and international pressures. Look, a strong job market keeps America humming, so here's hoping for smart moves that prioritize workers over bureaucracy. Common sense says focus on domestic growth, and that's what we should do. Time for some unfinished business from the past. On September 9th, the House Oversight Committee dropped a fresh batch of Jeffrey Epstein documents, including a birthday book with a note from Bill Clinton and details on the financier's shady dealings. Victims and lawmakers from both sides are pushing hard for full disclosure, arguing it's time to expose any high-level connections and close the book on this scandal once and for all. The files paint a grim picture of Epstein's network, with mentions of flights, payments, and names that have fueled conspiracy theories for years now. Trump dismissed much of it as old news, but supports the release, saying sunlight is the best disinfectant. Democrats, like Representative Massey, are teaming up with Republicans on a discharge position to force more docs out, bypassing stonewalling from the DOJ. Public reaction has been intense, with social media lighting up over the implications for justice and elite accountability. As the week closed, subpoenas went out to key figures like Alex Acosta, Epstein's former prosecutor, for testimony. It's a reminder that no one should be above the law, especially when lives were ruined. Releasing these files is a step toward real closure, and it's good to see bipartisan effort on truth. America deserves that kind of integrity. This next one's been covered heavily, and it is extremely heavy, folks. On September 11th, Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA, was fatally shot during an event at Utah Valley University. The sniper hit him over 200 yards away, and authorities recovered ammo engraved with pro-trans and anti-fascist message, pointing to a politically motivated attack. Kirk, who is a vocal voice for young conservatives, leaves behind a wife and 2 young children, as well as a movement that's reeling. Eyewitnesses described chaos as the shot rang out, with a mystery man in the crowd reportedly cheering before slipping away. The manhunt for the suspect is nationwide, with the FBI calling it domestic terrorism. Tributes poured in from leaders across the spectrum, but social media erupted with threats against other right-leaning figures like Trump and Elon Musk, showing how divided things are truly getting in this country. Kirk's death has sparked debates on security at public events and the rise of extremism, with his organization vowing to carry on his fight for free speech and traditional values. By the 12th, his casket arrived in Arizona to a crowd of supporters, where his widow, Erica, thanked everyone for the outpouring of love. It's a stark reminder of the passions in our politics. Losing someone like Kirk is a blow to open discourse, but his legacy of empowering youth could inspire more unity. We need to dial back the hate and focus on ideas. We need to hang in there, make sure that we do everything that we can to understand that we are different and we might have different views. But in the end, we're all human beings and we can find commonality in anything. No one deserves to die for exercising their right for free speech. And if you're out there cheering the death of one individual, you might want to take a look in the mirror, think to yourself, is this really the way that I want to be? Heartbreaking news on the schools. On September 10th, 16-year-old Desmond Holly opened fire at Evergreen High School in Colorado, wounding 2 students before taken down by security. Officials say Holly was radicalized online, possibly tied to extremist groups, and the quick response likely prevented worse. The community is in mourning, with parents demanding better mental health support and restrictions on social media that fuel hate. This comes amid a string of incidents raising alarms about youth violence and access to weapons. Law enforcement is digging into Holly's background, finding ties to anti-authority forum. By midweek, vigils were held, and Governor Newsom called for federal action on gun safety while respecting Second Amendment rights. Schools nationwide are reviewing protocols, but experts say addressing root causes like isolation is key. These tragedies hit hard, especially for families. Protecting kids means balancing security with freedom, and it's on all of us to foster better environments. Stay strong out there. And please make sure you talk to your children about being safe. Geopolitics are heating up also. Throughout the week, the Trump administration ramped up pressure on Venezuela, deporting dozens under the Alien Enemies Act and slapping new tariffs on their oil imports. Maduro fired back, calling it economic warfare, while U.S. officials cited human rights abuses and gang ties as justification. A federal appeals court struck down parts of the policy on September 7th, saying it overreached, but the White House appealed immediately. This ties into broader Latin American strategy with deployments against cartels and aid cuts to socialist regimes. Venezuelan immigrants in the U.S. are protesting, fearing family separations. By the 12th, talks of sanction relief in exchange for elections were floated, but trust is very low. It's part of Trump's maximalist approach to secure borders and energy independence. Tough love on rogue regimes makes sense for U.S. interests, but diplomacy can't be ignored. Here's to stable relationships ahead with everyone. Good news for personal choice. On September 5th, Florida Surgeon General Dr. Ladapo announced the end of all vaccine mandates statewide, citing individual rights and emerging data on long-term effects. This includes schools, businesses, and healthcare, aligning with national trends under RFK Jr.'s influence at HHS. The move drew cheers from freedom advocates, but criticism from public health experts worried about outbreaks. RFK testified in Senate hearings defending the policy as science-based, not anti-vax. By week's end, other states like Texas were considering similar bills. It's empowering people to make informed decisions, especially post-pandemic. Studies on nasal sprays for prevention are gaining traction too, offering alternatives. Choice in health is a cornerstone of liberty, and this feels like a win for common sense. Let's keep the facts flowing and allow people to make their own choices, whether it be good or bad. Now with some budget battles brewing in D.C. With September 30th approaching, Congress is scrambling over a funding bill, with Trump demanding clean extensions minus what he calls wasteful spending. House Democrats are holding firm, refusing details until GOP compromises on disaster aid and farm subsidies. Talks stalled midweek, raising shutdown risks that could furlough workers and halt services. Senate Leader Thune urged a simple bill, but divisions run deep on immigration add-ons. Economists warn it'll hurt the already shaky job market. By the 12th, bipartisan groups were negotiating, but time is tight. It's fiscal responsibility versus essential services. Avoiding shutdowns protects everyday Americans, so here's hoping leaders prioritize that over politics. Now a trade war update. On September 8th, an appellate court ruled most of Trump's tariffs on China, including those on EVs and steel, were unlawfully imposed without proper authority. The decision stems from lawsuits by states like California, which argued it hurt consumers and jobs. Trump vowed expedited appeals, calling it judicial overreach that weakens U.S. leverage. Tariffs brought in a record $30 billion last month, but critics say they raised prices. Global partners like Japan inked deals to ease the tensions. This could reshape supply chains with companies eyeing domestic production. It's a blow, but highlights the push for fair trade. Protecting American industry is key here, even if it means fighting in courts. Balanced approaches usually win. Well, that's a wrap on this week's top story, folks. Heavy stuff out there, but we're in this together. I want to thank you for tuning in to Just a Dude in the News on Just a Dude podcast. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a review, and I'll catch you next time. But until then, stay safe, stay informed, and keep being just a dude or a dudette. I'm Nathan with Just a Dude podcast, and I'll see you on the next episode.